You have a settings area. There's a lot of information there. I'm not going to go over all of that. There will be a few things that I'll probably come back and point out in there, but you'll have a settings area. These other three areas here, program, lesson, and reference, these are the items that help you carry off the program. These are the items that are specific to teaching a lesson. And then these are the items that we would consider almost like the front matter and back matter of a textbook, except it's in a digital setting right here for you. So if you needed to get to a pacing guide or correlations, or you wanted quick access to a primary source library or a glossary, all of that down in that reference area. So this sidebar over here is what you use to navigate. Up here at the very top in the right-hand corner, I want everybody to draw your eyes to where I'm circling around this little area right here. One is that we put in new features all the time. And when we put in new features, we always make sure that we give an announcement for it. You can get up-to-date news on what some of those features are right there. You're likely to have questions. And as you are using the program, what's really nice is that you always have instant access to our support area. So if you go up to the little question mark up there and you click on help, when you get to the help area, you'll see that we curated some topics that we know people typically have when they're starting to use the program, things like on basics of assignments and grading, but maybe even a step further, they're wanting to integrate TCI with their learning management system. And as you have questions about a feature, you can go to the help area. And if you don't see something quickly there that you're wanting to go to, you just type in what you're looking for, and you'll get a list of all the articles related to that topic. And if it's on, say, grading assessments, you'll be able to see step-by-step directions on how to be able to do that. So the help area, always important to know where that is. When you go to that little question mark, you just click on help. Or if you've noticed that there's something wrong and you want to alert TCI, or you've got a really great idea of a new feature that should be added to the program to make it better for you and your students, you can always click on feedback in that same question area and reach right out to us directly. So basic navigation is really simple. The sidebar is what you use to move around. What you click is what you see. And then being able to get quick access to the help and the feedback area, also super critical. What I'm going to do next, though, is I'm going to start back here at the program content area. And I took you inside of a lesson quickly, but now we're going to do it more methodically. And I'm going to show you as a teacher how you can use it, what you would use to prep, materials. I'm going to show you differentiation, all of those different things right now. So we're going to start at program content. And again, I'm going to pick a lesson that I want to teach. We're going to say it was that lesson, lesson 18, chapter 18 from the 8th grade program. So I'm going to click right on the title itself. It's going to take me right to the lesson guides. Note here in my sidebar, note how the shade of the purple has changed a little bit. Now, the first thing I want your eyes to be drawn to over on the right, in fact, I'm going to minimize the sidebar here so that it gets out of the way. First thing I want to draw your attention to is this area up here that's in orange. Now, it is only visible to you. So your students have a very similar type of experience when they're in TCI. They'll have a sidebar. They'll be able to click on items. They'll be able to see, what they click on over here. Well, they will not be able to see this little planning area or anything that we box off in orange. That's just for you. And this is a really good area to be able to look at because it gives you a lot of information about that lesson that TCI has created. So you see an overview. What's my essential question? What do we do at the beginning of the lesson and roughly how long does it take? What is the main part of the lesson where they're going into the text like? And how long does it take? What about the processing? And then what are my options for going beyond the lesson itself? That's all in the overview. look right here under materials. Materials is where I can go and grab PDFs of anything that I might need for that lesson if I'm going to use print. So in this case, for example, I know that my students are going to need that fact sheet when we do that discussion. Well, I can click it, it will go ahead and open up the PDF, and then I can print it out based on how many groups that I have inside the class. And it's not just English, you also have Spanish handouts right there. And you'll always have access to a lesson guide that has the step-by-step directions that follow exactly what we put in this slideshow. The biggest thing that you'll want to use with students in print, if you're using print and not their online account, is where do they take their content related notes? Now we take the notebook and we actually bake it right inside of their online account. But if you ever want to do it with your students in print, we actually put the notebook and its guide in a PDF format, both in English and in Spanish, so that you can print it out. So materials is specific to that lesson, the overview specific to that lesson, the teacher prep, what kinds of tips that we can provide for you when you're doing the lesson. What our colleague was asking about is, do you provide suggestions for differentiation? Are there different tools for it? Well, right here, let's begin to look at some of those. Right here is where we provide some suggestions on differentiation. How can you take the lesson activity that we're doing with the students and modify it for your EL students or those who are reading and writing below grade level that you have with special needs learners and your advanced learners? You'll always have some differentiation models that you can use that are based on the activity that we created. And the goal is not to have the students do different activities based on their learning need, but to modify the existing activity so that everyone can participate together. That's our goal. There's also a link up here on enhancing learning. Because we know teaching's a private practice and no two teachers are exactly alike, there's going to be times where you're wanting to involve literature, or you're wanting to have your students examine a third-party website or go to another source. Well, we've curated kind of the best of the best that teachers have recommended over the years, and we've cataloged them together by lesson for you. So this planning area up here at the very top, that always should be stop one when you're getting ready to plan for that very first lesson. So I'm going to encourage you, go there first before you view anything else, because this up here are all of your options for being able to teach that lesson and get the most out of it with your students. Now, when you're ready to actually get into a lesson and plan for it, that's where you want to go down and look at the activity, the classroom activity slideshow. And this is what I actually opened up and was using with you. And you saw a little bit of how I was using that as if you were a student. What's awesome about this is that we've taken the lesson procedures from the preview all the way to the processing, and we visualized it so that you can, when you're doing your lesson planning, go through here and see, all right, the lesson starts with the essential question. This is my preview. If my students are using the interactive notebook, we're going to have them focus on this point here. These are the prompts that I'm giving to my students. My audio or video, whatever is going to be used for that part of the lesson, it's in there. So you don't have to go to another source or anything like that. Now, the slide decks, you don't download them or anything like that. It's not like a Google slide deck or a PowerPoint. These live right within inside your TCI account, but they have the entire lesson in a format that you can use to plan. And then when you're ready to actually teach it, go in full screen mode and present it to your students. You can also share these with your students. So I'm going to hit the back arrow here so that you can see this, and I'll zoom in. Do you see right here where you've got that little share icon? So if I want my students to be able to follow along in the lesson as I'm teaching it on their own device, I just click that button right there, and my students will then have access to that slide deck. That simple. Now, I'm going to show you in just a few moments how you can assign student work, kind of what the text and notebook and formative and summative assessments look like. But the biggest thing that you're going to want to use when you get started as a teacher is going into the units, getting into a lesson, looking through the planning area, opening up that slide deck for yourself, and going through it from start to finish to see what's there. Now, you can always modify it. You can change it. You can add your own flavor to it. Obviously, we want you to own your instruction. But the beauty is you don't have to start from scratch. So I'm going to show you some of the student features next. But before I do that, I'm going to pause right there and see if there's any questions on what I've shared so far, just from the lesson guides and this planning area right here. Any questions? Yeah, so if I click that one more time, it would unshare it, which is kind of nice too, because after you get through a lesson, if if you've gone through the unit and you're wanting to kind of declutter what they have on their end, you can go in and you can unshare that. Or if you've made your own, because you can actually make a copy and then modify these. When you do so, you can pick from all the ones that you create which one you want to share and unshare the others too.